I'm Dan Doherty, Senior Director of our Estimating and Purchasing Group for Shawmut Design and Construction, focused here in New England. We are a national firm with major regions in the West and New York, so really working across the country. My focus today is really going to be on New England because obviously that's what I know best. But in talking to my counterparts in both the West and New York, a lot of the same themes and a lot of the themes that both Vermeulens, Dynamic, and Big State have already shared with us. But obviously there are some local and regional differences. So again, my focus today is going to be on New England. So just some of the current challenges that we're seeing: rapidly increasing material pricing over the last 6 months, lumber, say, over the past year. Longer lead times. We've talked about bar joists, just very hard to get. Metal deck 6, 7, 8 months out. Welded wire mesh, shortages of wire rod to make the mesh, backups at the plants, and delays in fabrication. Insulation, something that we've never really experienced before, and then even roofing membranes. Raw material shortages, with some of the winter storms, and affected some of the epoxies and petroleum-based products in the South, and also steel coil. We've, heard some experiences with the trucking and shipping delays, and that's coming from abroad, but also here domestically in the U.S., just even trying to get materials from state to state. And then tighter margins. So squeezed sometimes by these higher material prices, and I'll just talk through some examples later on, but also by contractors continuing to look to build backlog. This chart, again, we've touched on this, but year over year from May 2020 to May 2021, this is a chart that was put out by the AGC, and it's just I think a good graphic representation of material price increases. So you can see lumber and plywood 110%, steel mill products 76%, copper and brass 60%. We see lumber starting to moderate somewhat as the residential market slows down, but still really at all-time highs, and certainly we're seeing that with steel too. So the next slide, just kind of a recent example of some of the dynamics in the market. This was a project that we had budgeted, reconciled the DD budget back in April, $3,800 a ton erected for structural steel. And this is a big project at 3,200 tons. Metal deck, we had budgeted at $350 a square foot. When we took pricing, steel was upwards of $4,000 a ton. And the metal deck had almost doubled to $6 a square foot. So obviously you can see the lead times here. So that was about a 10% increase over our budget. And we had been having ongoing conversations with our client about where the market was heading. This was obviously a concern of ours and something that we were looking to manage. But metal deck lead time upwards of 7 months. Currently, we're pricing work right now, and we're hearing steel upwards of $4,200, $4,300 a ton. So continuing to increase. Some other material issues that we've had: mineral fiber insulation. This is a renovation we're doing down in Rhode Island. Changing out the exterior skin, and a 25-week lead time on mineral wool insulation. And all of a sudden, your insulation's on the critical path. So, the team worked hard to pull this back, substituted a 3-inch material for 2-inch material just because it was more readily available, worked with the design team to pull this schedule back. But again, just kind of the daily challenges that I think we're all seeing. Summer renovation in Cambridge, we were able to get 80 to 85% of this project done, but some of the delays on the fire alarm devices coming from abroad pushes some of this work into next summer. And then the last one here was a roofing project that we had been awarded last year, was delayed as the impacts of COVID hit, pushed into this year. And because as we started the pre-construction and procurement back up in April and May, with some of the lead times on the membrane, couldn't get it in time for the summer. This was an academic institution. They needed the roof done by September, pushed it another year. So, first an impact from COVID, and then secondly, just an impact from some of the lead times. And again, roofing material and membranes, just not something we're used to seeing tremendous lead times on. So it's everywhere. It's in almost every material. So we talked about some of the margin compression and all of us getting stuck a little bit, submitting our bids and then going to buy materials and having them increase. And you can see that here. This is another graph put out by AGC. The inputs to construction year over year up 24%. Bid prices through May, and this has climbed a little bit over the past couple months, up 3%. So again, that's really impacting margins and something to keep an eye on. And the next slide is just a couple of examples of things that have come up on our projects. The first one here, this is a project that was awarded probably 6 or 7 months ago. 2 or 3 months later, the electrician, we started having a dialogue. They had been really impacted by some of the increases in copper prices and ended up paying twice what they had anticipated at the time of bid. So again, increased costs, but really no recourse to increase their contract. Another renovation, this was acoustic material that a subcontractor had priced coming from California. At the time they priced it, it was a $6,000 freight charge. The company called them up and said, sorry, but we have to increase our freight to $12,000. And again, really no recourse for that contractor. So, eating into those profits. The last one here was actually something that we got caught in. We had bid a project. There was 3 or 4 weeks that elapsed between the time we were awarded the project and we were looking to lock up our steel sub. In that time, the metal deck had basically doubled. It wasn't a huge amount of material, so certainly something that we were able to manage, but again, a $20,000 or $30,000 increase in cost just in that short time frame. So, what we're doing, and I think, again, both Dynamic and Big State talked about this, we're looking at material substitutions. Most recently on a project, we switched from bar joist to wide flange for some of the roof framing. And again, just can't get bar joists. This was a schedule-driven project, slight increase in cost, but to the client, it was well worth it. Looking at switching from wood framing to light gauge in some circumstances. Light gauge has really started in multifamily, has started to get more competitive. Early planning and procurement, we're putting metal deck only out to bid, locking up lab casework early and focusing on things like roofing where, previously that was never an issue that we considered. Expedited subcontractor awards, so looking to really expedite this process, level of subcontractors, get those award letters to our clients so that we can lock that in before steel goes up again. Sourcing materials locally and domestically to eliminate some of the shipping delays that we've been seeing. And then lastly, what's next? What do we see on the horizons? We believe material prices will moderate as we go through the next couple of months and into early next year, but will remain higher than in pre-pandemic levels. We expect the labor markets to remain tight, really kind of constrained market, and as volume grows, that challenge will only get exacerbated. We expect continued supply chain and productivity disruption, again, hopefully moderating over time, but with the most recent COVID upticks, something to continue to watch. And a kind of moderating market, slowing down in the residential and a slow growth at least here in New England. In the non-residential market, will continue to keep both contractor and supplier margins competitive.